Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with veteran jazz trombonist and composer Michael Davis. He talked about his new 2023 CD, Open City, at length. This album is his 14th as a leader and his second fronting the acclaimed Hip Bone Big Band. He has assembled his usual star-studded cast of New York jazz and studio cats. Mike is well known for touring the world with the Rolling Stones 5 times over and played with Sinatra extensively, along with hundreds of others. He's got a great story. Enjoy.
Hey, everything just clicked off. I said it was good.
It's probably the gremlins from my cell signal coming over to my landline.
I think the universe was just telling me that just don't get too excited, pal. All right, just slow down there, sailor. All right, so I think we're in good shape now.
Okay, sounds good, Joe.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for taking a minute out for Neon Jazz today. I appreciate it.
Hey, pleasure to meet you. It's great to be with you.
So, Open City, before we get into your latest project, I really kind of want to get into the goofiness that we've lived through for the last 3 years with COVID and how it kind of turned the artistic and jazz world upside down. How did you survive that time period, and how good does it feel to have music out now?
Wow. Well, it feels amazing, you know. I mean, it's just like there was so much uncertainty and and anxiety really with what we were all going through even outside of music, and to have music just basically shut down, the business for the most part shut down. It was alarming to say the least, and we were all kind of just wondering what it's going to be like when it comes back. Is it going to be able to come back fully? And thankfully it has, and even in a more robust way than it might have been previous. But yeah, it was tough. I mean, I did a lot of home recording stuff. I worked on some various projects, including a little bit of the music for Open City. But just tried to keep practicing and writing. I wrote a duet book, and just kind of like everybody, we found stuff to keep yourself active and in shape and whatnot. So yeah, it was a challenging time to say the least.
So talk to me about Open City. What were the artistic forces that ultimately went into this recording?
I have to say one of the biggest things was working with my son Cole, who is now 27 years old, really talented bass player, composer, and we talked about doing this project together, and both from compositionally speaking, and he played on 4 of the 10 tracks, wrote 3 of the tracks. And a lot of the impetus for moving forward with it was the opportunity to work with him and give him a voice within the project itself. I had done my first big band record. This is my 14th record as a leader, but my first big band record was in 2016. And it's a pretty big expense and a lot of work and a lot of logistical headache. The more people you have, the more headaches you have, of course. Even though everybody's professional and doing a good job and all that stuff, but just the logistics of putting it all together and the finances of putting it all together are somewhat extreme as far as projects go. So at the time when I did the first one, I thought, I don't know if I'm going to ever do another big band record. But then after a few years went by, I started thinking about it again, and then wrote, like I said, some of the stuff from during the COVID, and it just kind of like it seems like, I don't know if everybody feels this way who does their own projects, but you kind of get a little bit of momentum from 1 or 2 pieces that you write, and then you get an idea, maybe we could turn this into a whole project, and then you get a little more momentum, and then little by little you're kind of fully in, and then you're committed to going the long haul of completing the project.
So what are you hoping the listener gets from this project?
I'm sorry, Joe, what am I hoping what?
What are you hoping those that listen to this get from the project?
Oh, I hope that they hear, of course I hope they enjoy the music, always in the eye of the beholder, and I feel like it has a contemporary flair with a lot of meat to it, a lot of integrity, and the playing is as good of playing as I've been around. I mean, just some of the best players that I've played with throughout my career. and I hope that they hear a freshness that sometimes you don't hear so much in the big band. You could hear a really good band, but it doesn't have any kind of unique, fresh sound to it, and I think we kind of achieved that on this. I think it has a little bit more unique and fresh sound than my first big band record. So I would love if listeners it struck them that way. But like I said, obviously, I hope people enjoy the music and it reaches them on some sort of emotional level. That's really what it all comes down to, I think, with music. So I guess part of all three of those things would be great.
So how did this music journey begin for you? How did you get into the jazz? How did the journey begin?
You mean just in general as becoming a musician?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in the Bay Area, and my dad was a college jazz band director. So I was around it my whole life as much as I can remember, and when I was playing different instruments all through from the time I was 5 years old, and my first instrument was I played the piano when I was 5 years old for about 3 years, and I guess I was pretty good. I was going to little competitions and whatnot and stuff like that, and then I played drums for a while, and somehow I ended up on the tuba, and then I was playing. Then I migrated to the baritone horn from that, and then I wanted to play in the jazz ensemble when I was in high school. So that the thing that was most closely related to the baritone horn was the trombone. So I just kind of migrated to that, and then my dad took me to hear Frank Rossellino, and that pretty much got me hooked, hook, line, and sinker. When you heard Frank, still one of my all-time favorites, and and then I went, at that time, maybe still is to some degree, but the Eastman School of Music was really known for a lot of really super good trombone players went there because this famous teacher, Emery Remington, was there. He was there about 10 years. He passed away 10 years before I got there, but still the legacy of good trombone players was living on at the school, and so that turned out to be really a fortuitous move because there were a lot of trombone players who were much better than me and just kicked my butt and motivated me. So I feel like I got a lot better just from being around all those people. And then my first job when I actually dropped out of school to go on Buddy Rich's band, and then from that point we were just kind of off and running. But I was always inspired and wanted to be a studio musician, and I'm grateful that I got to do a lot of that throughout my career. But people like trumpet players and trombone players, but people like Chuck Finley and Bill Reichenbach and Irby Green and various Randy Brecker, various folks along those lines that were jazz artists, but also worked as studio musicians, which I always loved the idea of walking in and not knowing what you're going to see that day and just having to sit down and go and really think on your feet. I always liked that aspect of it. It's always been kind of nice to combine both of those elements and work on jazz projects, and then also at the same time work as a studio musician.
So assuredly one of your highlights is being involved with the Stones. How did that come about?
That came about because we had a horn section with Chris Bode, actually, before Chris was a big star. And Chris had done a tour with Paul Simon, and they had some common management folks, Paul Simon's organization and the Rolling Stones, and word got out that they were looking for a horn section, and they called Chris. And Chris was his first solo record was just getting ready to come out on Verve, and he wanted to put all his efforts into becoming a soloist, which obviously he had tremendous success at. And so they wanted the Stones were looking for a trumpet, trombone, saxophone section to complement Bobby Keys, who was their main sax player for so many years. And so we went up, the rarest thing, because in my end of the business, you never really audition. You get called for a gig, and if it works out, they call you again. If it doesn't work out, you don't hear from them again. But the Stones wanted us to audition for them, and we did a couple rounds of auditions, and it was a year-long contract for a year-long world tour. At the time, it was 1994, and the tour was called Voodoo Lounge. And, we got the job. It was Andy Snitzer, who's a great saxophone player, and Kent Smith, a really fine trumpet player, myself. And we started with them, and first gig was at RFK Stadium in Washington, D.C., and we were off and running for a year with, actually it was 13 months around the world with them, and it was incredible. I mean, just all the things you'd expect, like super great treatment and accommodations, and just their following is second to none. So it was a treat. I loved it. It's not music that you normally associate too much with horns, but when you go back and look at their catalog, and especially those really fruitful periods like Exile on Main Street and Let It Bleed and Beggar's Banquet, all that period, like late 60s, early 70s, Sticky Fingers, and there are horns on almost all of those records, and they wanted to be true to the recording, so they always had a horn section, so it was really it was fun to learn all that music. I knew some of the tunes when I started with them, but then to see the breadth of their catalog was pretty an amazing experience. I mean, how they can remember all that stuff is remarkable. But it was an incredible ride. I ended up doing 5 world tours with them, which was spanned about 15 years total time. So it was great. I'm super grateful to those guys.
So in this process here, there's so many elements, and especially with you releasing this album now, what do you like the best about being a professional musician?
I think I like the independence that you're kind of, you have the ability to build whatever you can envision and whatever you want to work hard enough on and whatever you want to persist at and whatever, so many elements that can lead to success or not lead to success if you aren't fully committed or whatever might happen. Of course, there's luck and all that thing, and there's different kind of momentum of how hirings go and this and that and this and that. But I think overall, just the ability to build what you envision and you're kind of like, when I do master classes and workshops, I always say it's like anybody whose parents are small business owners. That's the way you have to look at yourself. And I always kind of like that you have the opportunity to look at it that way. It's not like you're working for entity X, whether it be a school or a business or whatever, and you're there for your whole career. Now you have the opportunity to ebb and flow with whatever presents itself, and whatever you build and whatever you nurture that into and help it grow into. So it's been something I'm really super grateful for, because it's worked out really well for me. I'm really appreciative for the road that it's taken me on. And not to say that it's always worked out great. Sometimes it's you take a left turn and it goes right into a dead end, and then you just figure out how to get out of it and make sure you don't make that left turn again. But yeah, I think I like the fact that you're you're an independent contractor, so to speak, and you're on your own to sink or swim, and you can build it however you can piece together the tools to make it happen.
So, you've mentioned Buddy, you mentioned the Stones, you've been around a lot of people over the years. What have you learned from these legends and luminaries and stars of music that you, in turn, have taught younger players that you get around? Yeah,
I think what all of them, and Frank Sinatra comes to mind too. I spent many years with him, and all of these great players, like in one of my favorite musicians, Bob Mintzer, I was in his band for about 20 years till he moved out to Los Angeles. But even though we're talking about all kinds of different styles of music, I think what I learned from the one common element that they all have is that they're all fully in what they're doing, whether it's playing a show or they're making a recording or they're dealing with business aspects of whatever they're dealing with. They're all. The Rolling Stones are a great example too. I never saw them give anything less than 100%, always. And you could be, I learned that early on from Buddy Rich. He didn't want to know about if you're tired or sick or just broke up with your girlfriend or whatever it might be. Your job is to get up there and play the best of your ability and to the level that the expectation that he had for his band. And I think all of those great artists, I mean, listen to the consistency of how great Bob Mintzer's records are. He always just brings it, both from a compositional arranging standpoint and playing, but being fully committed to everything you're doing all the time. That's, I think, one of the most important things that you can bring to what you're it's really your own personal brand, so to speak, but to your craft and to what you're trying to build as a career.
So everyone out there has a perception of you, your family, your friends, your fans, but ultimately you're in control. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Wow, that's a great question. I think I'm a person who has a passion for music and has some ability and tried to foster that ability and build on it. Am I the most talented musician around? I'm not even the most talented musician in my family. My son is more talented than I am. But I think my perception of myself is that I have worked hard and have taken what I've been given and really tried to make the most of it and take advantage of what's there and try to build on it. I also think I'm a pretty hard worker, and I tried to have built my publishing company and really tried to take something that was new and that didn't exist before and added gave something to the business, to the craft, to the industry that hopefully contributed on some level.
So, final question for you here is, we've talked about all these musicians that have had longevity, they've evolved. What's been the key for you in a long career that you've had to stay relevant, to evolve as well?
I think, it's funny. I have an interview series myself on my Hip Hop Music website, and I interviewed Vic Firth, the famous drum. Well, he had a multi-million-dollar company, but also he was an incredibly great classical percussionist. He was 50 years in the Boston Symphony, and I asked him a similar question like that, and he just said, Mike, at this point, this was just about a year before he passed away. He was in his mid-80s at that point. And he said, Mike, I think the thing that what has given me the most is the ability to persist and just stay in it and just continually don't be afraid to make mistakes. And when you make mistakes, get back up and go and figure out, okay, this is what, I think he said it, loads of people have said it, but you learn more from your mistakes than you do from your successes. And I think the ability to, just forge ahead, not blindly by any means, but forge ahead even in the face of adversity and just accept that as part of the growing process. I guess that's been the most helpful element to my career, having a good deal of longevity.
So, Michael, if anyone wants to pick up Open City, learn more about you, any other recordings or projects, where can they go?
The best place to go is hipbonemusic.com, HIP-BONE music.com. All 14 of my records are there, as well as a whole bunch of information and books and whatnot. If you're interested in downloading it, we just published it yesterday. It's on bandcamp.com, a really great site and really great for the artist. Much better than any of the other streaming services or places you get your downloads. But bandcamp.com, you can check it out, hipbonemusic.bandcamp.com. And it's up there now, and we're starting to see some sales trickle in, so it's a nice thing. Tomorrow's the official release date. So, we're really excited, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you, Joe, and thanks for asking about that. But hipbonemusic.com and bandcamp.com. That'll get you to both the physical copies and the downloadable version.
Hey, Michael, it's been an honor and a pleasure. Thank you for taking time out. Best of luck with the album. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate you and all the great work that you do as well. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening and tuning into another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players and minds in New York, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. Thanks to Mike for his time, humility, and cool. If you want to hear more interviews, you can find Neon Jazz interviews on either Apple Podcast or Spotify. Subscribe to us at YouTube, and for everything Neon Jazz, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.